Hi again, everybody. Paul Dottino with the Big Blue Breakdown once again this week, and it's time for preseason game number 2, the Giants and the Jets at MetLife Stadium tomorrow night. That's Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I think there was certainly a bunch of good things that you saw in last week's Giants game against the Buffalo Bills in the preseason opener. Obviously, you want a bunch of those things to continue. Then there were some soft spots that I'm sure the coaches would like to clean up, as well as maybe some points of interest that they may have gained during this week's dual practices with the Jets on Tuesday and Wednesday. All right, so quickly, let's go unit by unit as we give you this primer in terms of what you would like to see, what you would like to watch for in this Giants-Jets game. Now, first things first, we can't be sure how many snaps each of the guys are going to play, how many guys may be held out. We already know, it's been made very clear by head coach Brian Daboll, at least going into week 1, that everybody who was healthy and got a complete green light from the medical staff was allowed to play some. That meant maybe just one drive, like the case of Russell Wilson, right? The case of Abdul Carter got to play 6 snaps. We don't know exactly how that's going to lie. So I'm kind of going to get off of the snap count for a minute. I know everybody wants to know snap count. That's not the most important thing about this game on Saturday. It's more important about how the backups prepare. The Giants pretty much know who their starting 22 are going to be opening day against the Washington Commanders. It's the backups right now, the depth chart. The Giants are good enough now where they pretty much know their 22. But the depth chart still needs some work. Those are the critical spots right now that have to be earned over the course of the next couple of weeks until the cut from 90 to 53 comes your way on August the 26th. All right, let's go over it. What did you see that was really good last week? Well, let's see. We know about 400 yards of total offense, 34 points, 9 of 19 on third down conversions, 2 of 2 on fourth. The offense was rolling, although the run game still held under 90 yards and less than 3.5 yards a carry. And you don't want Jackson Dart to lead your team in rushing ever again. That should never happen on a week-to-week basis. So one thing there, right there, about the offense, and even though they were 2 for 2 in the red zone, and that was all sweet, you want to see the Giants establish more of a running game. Now, I also get it, right? I get it. You're not going to have Scatterboo. He's obviously still nursing that sore leg. I totally understand that. You're not going to want to play Tracy or Singletary very much. But I do think you're going to want to see a lot of Dante Turbo Miller. Coach Brian Daboll made him the offensive player of the game last week in Buffalo. Even though he didn't run for a whole lot of yardage, he did wind up catching all 7 of his targets and did a really good job in the screen game and as a pass receiver. Well, I would suggest you'd want to see a lot more out of the Giants' running game and specifically feeding Turbo Miller as much as you possibly can. Let's see if this guy can continue to enhance his credentials and force his way onto the roster as the number 4 running back. Now, he's got to do it in other ways too, and he did it last week. He had a kickoff return for 20 yards, also had a special teams tackle. I think it's imperative that he continues to play special teams and continues to show the Giants that he's more than a one-trick pony, simply being able to play running back. That's one way he can force himself onto the 53. The other way, honestly, if Cam Scatterboo's leg continues to be sore, well, it's been widely reported that it's a hamstring. If that continues to be sore going into opening day, there's always the opportunity for the Giants to start the season with Scatterboo on injury reserve with a designation to return, which means he would be able to come back after several weeks And then you could have Dante Miller as your number 3 running back opening day as part of your 53 man roster. That would be another way. And this way you put off the decision and you buy time, allowing Miller to still stay on the 53, buying him extra time, while Scottaboo may need some extra weeks to heal up. We still don't know if that's going to be the case yet. Remember, Coach Daboll has said he does not believe any of the guys who have been nicked up are long-term. But that is one possible avenue that kind of raises itself as a little bit more of a possibility now that we're getting closer and closer to the regular season. Okay, what else on offense do you want to see? I think you want to see more of Jackson Dart, right? Come on. He was terrific against the Bills. There's no question about that. 12 of 19, 154 yards, and a touchdown pass to little Jordan Humphrey of 28 yards down the sideline. Okay, sweet, great. But you know, it's always a what have you done for me lately league. So let's see Jackson Dart get another at least full quarter of action. I wouldn't be surprised if Wilson starts, plays one series as he did last week, and then Dart comes in and finishes out the rest of the first half. That was a very healthy body of work that Coach Daboll gave the rookie against Buffalo. I think that's another good piece of work that you could give him this week against the Jets. Maybe even if you want him to start the third quarter, you could let him do that as well. The point is, right now, as long as the arrows keep pointing up on him, you want to give him as much work as possible. He can continue to get better, or maybe he stubs his toe. I don't mean that literally, and can learn from whatever mistakes that he does make. He had one pass last week that was really errant, but otherwise, he really did well. Now, one other item about him before I move on. We didn't see him slide and lead with his feet. He's got to do that. Simply put, if he wants to last in this league, he's going to have to learn how to slide and lead with his feet. Every time he ran last week, he went full throttle and went to gain yardage and went to take guys on. Jackson Dart, you are not a linebacker. You are a quarterback. It is not a great idea to initiate contact every time you run with the ball. So let's hope that beginning this weekend against the Jets, he learns how to lead and slide with his feet. I think another guy who you really got excited about last week was swing tackle rookie and 5th-round pick Marcus Bowe out of Purdue, who did a really fine job swapping from left tackle and right tackle and right tackle and left tackle, and back and forth he went and continued to hold up well. He did the same thing this week in the Giants and Jets joint practices too. Well, when you see stuff that's that good, you say the sky's the limit. Let's see if you could do it again. So get Marcus Bowe a whole lot of reps at both tackle spots this weekend and see if in preseason game 2 he can start building off of it. Or once again, if he doesn't do well, let him use it as a learning tool. Nothing wrong with that. So certainly want to keep an eye on number 71, rookie offensive tackle Marcus Bowe. Another spot you want to keep a close eye on is the wide receiver room. Look, the first 5 spots we think are going to be pretty solid, but if they're going to keep a 6th wide receiver, somebody has got to really step up and take charge of that position. And they're also going to have to show that they can do something on special teams as well. Now, when you include the special teams factor, obviously Montrell Washington, the former Kansas City Chief, who's made some plays and does play specials, that gives him a little bit of a leg up, right? Well, not so fast, because Montrell Washington has also had some cases of the dropsies. That's where Bo Collins comes in. Bo Collins, bigger, stronger, better hands, but has not shown quite the production on special teams. In fact, Collins did not play last week against Buffalo. He was nicked up. This would be a great chance for Beau Collins to really assert himself and maybe get a leg up in the race if he should have a big game against the Jets, and specifically if he should be able to help out the Giants on special teams. You're also looking at two other guys, in my opinion, who are potentially fighting for that possible sixth wide receiver spot. That would be Gunnar Olszewski. We all know what he is. There's no upside there. We know that he is a capable and quality player, not only as a receiver, but also on special teams. And rookie undrafted free agent Dele Cambry was a special teams demon in college. But then he came to the Giants and all of a sudden showed that, you know what? He can also play receiver effectively. And he's got good hands. And he can catch the ball and make plays. So I think it's really four wide receivers fighting for a potential one spot on the depth chart. These guys have two more games, starting with the Jets contest, to see if they can sort it out and rise to the top, and somebody can grab a hold of that potential roster spot. Now, the other guys on offense, folks, it was a major disappointment that we did not get a chance to see Evan Neal at guard or Jalen Hyatt at wide receiver against Buffalo. However, they did return to practice this week. Whatever their ailments were that the trainers decided to keep them out of the Bills game, one would think that because they did get back to practice against the Jets, that they will both be available to play on Saturday. Well, the microscope is out. We still haven't seen Evan Neal get out there and play guard in a game. I would get him probably a full half of reps, whether it's left guard, right guard, or even a little of both. And I certainly want to see Jalen Hyatt not only in the game, but get at least a couple of targets. So those are the things on offense that I would really kind of focus in on as you watch this Giants and Jets game. Now, as a sidelight to that, I'm just going to quickly kind of curve around and go to special teams because, as I said before, the running back, Miller, and all of those four receivers, they also come into play on special teams. So let me just say this. Graham Gano hit 350 or longer field goals against the Bills. He was 3 for 3. I know he did doink one off the upright and it went through. But I have no concerns. I believe that Graham Gano is fine. And I think the Giants are going to stick with him unless something unforeseen happens. Jamie Gillen, fine. We know Smith Morset is an outstanding return guy and has shown well as a receiver. I say he's on the roster already as one of the 5 receivers for sure. So, again, the fringe guys, the 4 receivers I mentioned before, plus Miller, I want to see production out of those guys either in the return game and or in the coverage units. We go finally to defense. Now, okay, they held Buffalo to 1 for 9 on 3rd down and 1 for 2 on 4th down. Great numbers for sure. They also were +1 in the turnover ratio because of the one fumble they recovered. Trace Ford grabbed that one late in the game, set up the clinching touchdown. Hey, try to get a couple more takeaways if you can. Giants defense on the whole during the offseason did a fairly good job. I won't say it was good enough, but it was a fairly good job. Much better than what they showed last year when they just couldn't get takeaways to save their lives. This defense during the offseason showed that they could be much closer to average in terms of trying to get the ball out. Well, how about you really do a great job of getting the ball out against the Jets? Let's see if you can get 2 or 3 takeaways. That would really kind of boost some confidence that they'll be able to maybe do better in that department during the 2025 season. Because right now, you just don't know. The other thing on defense, the rush defense, they gave up a small handful of double-digit runs in that game. So let's continue to see what the Giants can get out of third-round draft pick Darius Alexander. I believe that Ray Robertson Harris, who had a terrific game against Buffalo last week, he's a veteran. I think they know what he is. I'm still curious as to how quickly Darius Alexander is going to improve his game. I don't think there's any doubt that he has shown the Giants that he's got some really good natural pass rush skills. He's got to continue to develop his play against the run and then develop second and third moves in the pass rush. I'm still very excited about him. I think he's going to be a big-time player for this team. But right now, he's still trying to feel his way. Remember, he missed a lot of the offseason on the side. He was nicked up. So he was behind coming into training camp. And so far, he still looks like he's somewhat behind. We thought maybe during the offseason, with his natural ability, maybe he'll step in and surprise and maybe even have a shorter learning curve than one might think. That does not appear to be the case right now. It looks as though we're just going to have to be a little more patient with him, and the Giants will have to develop him a little bit more than maybe what some of us might have anticipated earlier, simply based on his natural abilities. So let's get another good look at Alexander in this game, and let's see how he can try to take a step forward. The other thing that I think is very important on this defense is secondary depth. I still think that the Giants' starting five of Adebo, Banks, Holland, Newman, and Phillips is going to be a very strong unit this year. But behind those guys, well, what do you have? Cordell Flott did not play, nicked up last week. I like Cordell Flott a lot, always have. I still feel good about him, but durability does continue to raise its ugly head as far as he's concerned. Dane Belton as the third safety. I feel fine with that. No problem there. But that's really it. That's kind of where the buck stops on the Giants' depth in the secondary. Flott, who had been up and down with his health, and Belton, who's mostly able to get in there whenever needed and also on special teams. But the rest of the secondary depth is very, very much up in the air and questionable for me. So let's see what the depth chart guys in the secondary can do against the Jets. And finally, my last two items of note come from watching the Giants and Jets dual practices this past week. I thought Paulson Adebo did a fantastic job of handcuffing all-pro wide receiver Garrett Wilson. He was all over him in man-to-man blanket coverage during the dual practice sessions. It was really something to watch and something to behold. I'm curious to see how much Wilson tries to beat Adebo in this game, because I'm sure his pride was stung just a little bit after how well Adebo played him. And then finally, Abdul Carter, the Giants' outstanding rookie edge rusher. Big things expected from him. Well, this past week at the dual practices, Max Mitchell really held his own. And quite honestly, it was about as pedestrian as I'd seen Carter look the entire offseason. Yeah, there was a flash or two, but I thought Mitchell did a very strong job in containing Carter. So let's see how Carter responds in this game against the Jets. Preseason game number 2, Saturday, MetLife Stadium, 7 o'clock tip-off, or kickoff, I should say. No, it's not basketball, it is football. And, of course, we'll be back the following day with our game balls and gassers for the offense, the defense, and the special teams here on the Big Blue Breakdown as part of the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel and media network. Until then, I'm Paul Tatino, and we will see you next time.